Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go. Woo!
All right. Good morning, Vikings fans. Waking up. Vikings are 3-2 despite colossal amounts of injuries. They've made it back from spending a half a month in Europe, Dublin over to London. They get a well-timed bye week to see if they can get some bodies back and healthy. We have slept on this after a 2-hour event line, and we're going to give you our hottest Vikings takes. Chef Dex has a pie chart of praise, and we'll get to our nitpicks off yesterday's game as well. But the hottest takes every Monday, presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, Dex.
That's right. So join their smart club. Man, it's chilly out. Chilly out this morning.
I love it, dude.
Yes.
Fall weather is here.
Football.
Let's go.
$30 off to a furnace tune-up from our friends at Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. You can join their smart club too, which give you a discount on repairs. They helped me buy this house, to be honest. I had to make sure that furnace was in good shape. They came out, made sure it was in good shape, was able to go through with it. So make sure your HVACs are working appropriately. Shout out to Standard Heating. Tell them that Purple Daily sent you. And they power our hottest takes on this beautiful Victory Monday.
Yeah, also a shout out to Federated. Federated Insurance is like having a great, reliable, sturdy offensive line for your small or medium-sized business. They come in with over a century of experience in helping your company protect its reputation, the workplace, your employees, and your financial assets. And like I said, Federated specializes in working with small to medium-sized businesses, the backbone of America. They also work with next-generation business owners. So if you are taking over a company, maybe you're a third-generation baseball team owner. I don't know if that's the industry that they specialize in, but you can find a full list of industries Federated specializes in at federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. I think we should throw it over to the sports dad in the old 1500 ESPN studio here for your hottest Vikings take. You want to lead us off?
Yeah, of course. So this actually came to me as I was watching the Kevin O'Connell postgame presser, and I think I sent this to you guys on text, but I will give you this hottest take. Kevin O'Connell positively, absolutely hated the offensive game plan and scheme and what he had to do to win that game, and I've never seen him so unhappy after a win. Let me give you the exact quote, okay?
The quote doesn't do the body language justice either. That's the thing. No, it doesn't. But here is the context. You ask Kevin O'Connell what the weather is. He will give you 3 paragraphs. He'll talk about the weather, how that affects the mood of things. The journey of the weather system moving through. Yeah.
Just like Brett Favre, in the sense that he will give you. He actually gets his press conferences down to about 8 questions because he is so good at carrying on. But his answer, he was asked, and I didn't recognize the voice because I thought to myself, is this someone he's mad at? Like because the answer
was
so
Arif,
curt.
Wasn't it? It was Arif who asked the question.
But I don't think it's what
was Arif out there?
I think he was covering it.
I don't know if he was out there.
Arif.
But what I'm saying is it wasn't one of the beat people who he would be mad at. Like there's a chance that he would have been mad at like our guy Seifert, right? Or Kramer or somebody who had been around the team, and maybe like it's very small stuff. But anyway, I didn't recognize the voice as like a regular. So I'm taking this quote for what it's worth. And it could have been Arif because the question was phrased as, and it was a compliment. He's like, you had to do a lot of things that you ordinarily don't do. Boots, have Carson move the pocket, a lot of things that you don't ordinarily like to probably do. And his response in 17 words was, well, actually 18 words. He said, yeah. And he gave it some thought. And then he said, we wanted to make sure we had a game plan to try to win the game today. And that was the end of the response. There was no like thought after that to explain it. There was nothing. He was so disgusted by what he had to do from a football standpoint that he literally said, we wanted to make sure we had a game plan to try to win the game today. This is as grossed out as I have ever seen O'Connell at the podium and talking about anything to do with his football team that had nothing to do with like a mistake. This had nothing to do with bad things. That's my hottest take. He was disgusted by this.
He was disgusted. Yeah, the video is circulating around. I've seen just a couple clips of it. The Vikings post most of the post-game press conferences up on their website too. His body language was palpably disgusted. And I couldn't tell. You sent that clip last night. It's funny because I had just seen it from someone else's, and we had kind of seen it. We were digesting it kind of at the same time. And I believe there was an additional tag to the question that had something to do with like, so you had to run some boots and some different things and quick games, whatever it was. But then I think the end part of the question was that a product of just like the line situations, your line versus their front?
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought was maybe Kevin is annoyed that the end of that question was trying to bait him into like ripping his offensive line for being, hey, we had to trick up this game plan because our offensive line is garbage. And that's the only there's really two answers. He was kind of offended by the tone of the question, or you're right, and he was disgusted by what he had to do to dumb down his offensive scheme to win that game, which was objectively the right thing to do.
But that's my point.
To gain 350 yards against that defensive front, right, and to gain almost 6 yards per play. If not for the turnovers, they probably scored 28 points in that game.
So, but the funniest thing is this with Carson Wentz, and this is where I think he was grossed out by the majority of the game, but not the end. So Carson Wentz, until the last drive, was 16 of 25, 165 yards, no touchdowns, no picks either, which is very, very important. Okay, yeah. But that is a very pedestrian, un-O'Connell like lack of explosives line. His final drive, 9 of 9, 71 yards and a touchdown. And I think O'Connell watched that and thought, that's what I'd like to do. And I don't think he was. The thing about the question was it was phrased as such of because it wasn't like leading in a bad way. It was phrased as you did what you had to do. Talk about that, which ordinarily you'll get chapter and verse. And he thought about it and he gave it a little bit of thought. And I don't know, it could have had to do with the fact that in part he was frustrated because he sort of had to do for this game what people have been saying, just do this, right? Like just go ahead and dumb it down a bit. It's going to be okay. And they won the game. But I just thought that was just a great glimpse into O'Connell and who he really is, because he couldn't even put on his happy KO face for that one.
Yeah, super interesting. Just kind of digging deeper into what they did, what they had to do, right? I think what they did was great. What they did, it worked well. I think it's something you should probably. This is just, again, I haven't like gone back and grinded the film, and we'll have Jeremiah Searles on for an O-line committee crossover on a separate episode of Purple Daily today. So be on the lookout for that. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already, Vikings fans, on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. But just watching, especially the first half of that game, a lot of the scripted stuff early, when forced to, I feel like Kevin tends to lean more aggressively on creative play calling. He's a very creative play caller when he decides to be. He does. I feel like he does tend to lean on some of the same longer developing principles, but he would tell you that's how we won a Super Bowl with the Rams when I was the offensive coordinator. And it wasn't us doing quick game all day for 3 hours. It was Matthew Stafford hunting down the field for big chunk plays and Cooper Kupp in his prime, right? But when you're missing all those offensive linemen, when you have a backup quarterback that's been solidified as a backup quarterback now for about a half decade and just joined your team 6 weeks ago, well, how do you get to 350 yards? You're probably not going to be able to just drop it back and wait for those long developing Justin Jefferson routes. So to his credit, early in that game, and I stopped taking specific notes, but there was a Justin Jefferson sweep motion that turned into a pass out of the backfield for a big chunk. Mm-hmm. There was a Jalen Naylor fly sweep. I think it was classified as a running play for like 10 yards. You had an early tunnel screen to TJ Hawkinson for a first down. Maybe got a little TJ Hawkinson screen happy later in the game. But I thought, man, if you could take some of these motions and movements, there was on that Justin Jefferson play, and maybe we can verify with Jeremiah. So he goes in motion from the left side across the back of the formation, and they snap the ball, and the offensive line kind of moves left like they are running like a zone play to the left. And Jefferson jailbreak out of the backfield with a head start on the defense, catches a pass, right? I'm pretty sure Christian Darrisaw was lined up to the right of the right tackle on that play. They literally took their left tackle, moved him to the right of the formation. It was something that like the Lions would do, or some of these crazy. The Steelers put an extra offensive lineman on the field, for example, against the Vikings 17 times in that game in Dublin. So there are things being done creatively that you see sometimes with the Vikings, and I'm not an expert, but that felt really creative, and it's almost like he's a little offended that, like, to your point, that he had to do it. It's a compliment, man. Like, you've got this incredible scheme that when the offensive line is protecting, you can hunt down the field. Sam Darnold last year, Kirk Cousins at times. But that's not the case right now. When you've got Walter Rouse and Justin School in the game, all right, you gotta change some things up.
He also had an interesting comment in the same press conference at one point saying, "My brain hurts." And I think he was talking about, and this is where it gets intriguing, is I think that there is with Carson Wentz, okay? I think what Kevin has come to the realization is this guy is out there to submarine my ass at some point. He's going to do something stupid. Carson Wentz is. No. That's what Kevin thinks. So he thinks, because he also said, I was in his ear. I basically said I was in his ear that last drive saying, trust me, I'm going to get you. His quote was, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to guide you. So he's taken him. It's Carson Wentz is a 5-year-old quarterback who Kevin O'Connell has by the hand and is leading him. And I will say this, that last drive was a classic. Don't do something stupid. Don't get dead. And Carson Wentz didn't. I think there was one play of significance. Other than that, it's all short passes.
They ran the ball on the first play of the drive.
Yeah, that was all stuff O'Connell would be like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. So, but I think there was so much more to that last drive and that game than what we thought about, because of the fact of how he wants to do things and how specific things in 2023, I think, taught him you cannot do what you want if you don't have the quarterback that thinks like you do a little bit.
Or the offensive line that can hold up and protect long enough for some of the creative down the field routes to take hold, right?
So if they had their full line, like let's say they're entirely healthy and the game just plays out where they're not playing great, all right? Does he turn Wentz loose and does Wentz throw a deadly pick? Because I will say this, the offensive line, and I will give the offensive line, I think, played a hell of a game.
Like, spoiler alert,
given what they had, they did play a hell of a game. But I think the fact that he had to guide Wentz to water for that entire game was not a bad thing, but I think he thinks it was a bad thing.
Do you think there's another layer to this that they clearly aren't talking publicly about, but at some point over the weekend, one of the best number 2 wide receivers in the league went missing from the team for a portion of, like, he wasn't at a practice or a walkthrough at some point on like Friday or Saturday.
Yes.
He's just gone from the team, and so they're trying to plan, what are we going to do in this game? I'm sure they got their first 15 scripted, but they're going through the walkthrough, and a really important part of that is not there. And so they're trying to figure out what's happening, and we have to punish him. So they punish him, and did Kevin have to go back to the drawing board for the first 15 or 20 and re-script without Jordan Addison? But he's, so like that question's coming into him, and he's thinking to himself, we're going to keep this internal. He's like, his mental dialogue is, I'm not going to throw Jordan Addison under the bus. We're going to handle it internally. I had to scrap my entire first 15 to 20 plays because he wasn't on the field, and so I was up all night on. I mean, there's maybe layers to this. That went into the way he answered that question.
Yeah. And Vikings.com, VEN, you edited the post game.
No game balls.
Well, there were. I think that's why they took them out.
They didn't show the game balls.
Yeah. They showed nothing. They showed the opening speech, and then the next thing is team on 3. And so, I think that so do we think that Jordan just went to London? Because they were staying an hour and like 15 outside of London. Do we think he just like went and partied for a day or a night?
It'll get out. There's enough internet sleuths. There's enough people that will talk that this story will get out at some point.
Yeah.
And unless his dog was in another emergency state and we can play the sympathy card, This will be the third time, unless you believe the dog story. Then it's only the second time that he has drastically let his team down. Can you imagine losing that game? But I mean, they have to. Like, I know some people are like, well, why would you choose to? Aren't you punishing the team even more by suspend? You have to have some level. If you miss a walkthrough, the rest of your team is there. He's not. Maybe there are some guys in the NFL where if they go, Dennis Rodman with the Bulls in the 90s or whatever. Somebody brought that comparison up on Ventline. But you have to suspend him internally. You can't just not have an accountability structure.
No.
So, man.
No.
There's more to talk about there. But,
yes.
Dex, what is your hottest take?
All right.
Yesterday.
Yes, here's my hottest take. No team in the NFL has been more fortunate than the 2025 Vikings. That is my hottest take. No team has had better breaks, more luck. Everyone's always looking at the game saying, oh, the refs are trying to screw us, or we have bad luck as a franchise, which as a whole, that's still true. This season, though, this Vikings team is the most fortunate team in the entire league. When you consider the circumstances, I am shocked how they have one win, let alone three. The big win against the Bengals happened because of Isaiah Rodgers' insane game, and more importantly, Jake Browning being completely incompetent trying to play quarterback. The offensive line is ravaged. They're starting second and third string guys. They have been without, which we talked about yesterday in Ventline, they have been without Christian Darrisaw, Aaron Jones, Brian O'Neill, Ryan Kelly, Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, Jordan Addison, your first-round pick Donovan Jackson, and your supposed starting quarterback in QB1 and J.J. McCarthy. And despite all of that, the Vikings are 3-2. And quarterback play doesn't have to absolutely carry you to wins. But right now, I looked this up last night and then I confirmed it today. So Carson Wentz has a 41.4 QBR according to ESPN. J.J. McCarthy in his 7-8 quarters, 2 games of action has a QBR of 20. It's terrible. So when you look at some other quarterbacks who have posted better QBRs this year than Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, Tua, Spencer Rattler, those teams have gone a combined 4-16, and they've put up better numbers, better raw numbers in QBR than guys like Carson Wentz and J.J. McCarthy. The Vikings have been one of the most penalized teams in the NFL. They had a kicker, a franchise who was littered with kicking problems, have this field goal attempt blocked by a camera wire, and they somehow still didn't lose the game. And throughout all of this, by the way, the Vikings have, because of the Bengals win, the 4th best point differential in the NFC entering Monday Night Football. So make it make sense to me. My hottest take is no team in the NFL has been more fortunate than the 2025 Minnesota Vikings. That is my hottest take.
When you use I love the take, but when you use the word fortunate, it almost sounds like luck. And I would push back and argue that because they are well coached, because they have had players step up in backup roles that otherwise wouldn't be starting, that they've created a lot of their own fortune. Like, winning you could argue that having a football hit a camera wire is misfortune, and they overcame it with just taking a deep breath and being organized and just believing that they're still going to win the game. But to your broader point, so they on point differential, the only teams ahead of them in the NFC right now in terms of point differential are the Lions plus 62, the Seahawks plus 41, and the Commanders, Jaden Daniels back, nice little boost, plus 33. Vikings 4th, like Declan said, in point differential in the NFC, despite 45%, those players he mentioned, 45% of their starters through the first 5 weeks have missed large chunks of those first 5 games. And to overcome all of that, even as sloppy as it has expectedly, by the way, looked at times, to be 4th in the NFC in point differential, 3-2, and you've been doing it with almost half of your starters missing significant time in the first month and a half is pretty wild when you zoom out.
Yeah, so it's not I don't know that they're fortunate, but they are baffling. Like, it's baffling. And so here's my question too. Does the defense's deficiencies catch up to them in points eventually? Like, is this really them, which is bend, but don't break? Or does this eventually, like a lot of times it does, come around to bite them? That's my question. Are we going to start to see teams score points? Because if you don't improve, like against the run game, for instance, it's going to get more difficult to hold off teams. So there's a lot of things about this. Once guys start to come back, I mean, is Blake Cashman that key? And if he is, that means he can't get hurt again, which I have a lot of fear he's going to. But there are a lot. The 2025 Vikings, to me, are sort of a mysterious team because I still don't know exactly what's going to transpire. And I'm not out, but I am far from having bought into some things, especially on the defensive side of the football.
Well, let's have a defense conversation, and we can go. I think Tuesday's episode is going to be an even deeper dive into a lot of this stuff, but I think you and other people are falling victim to tunnel vision-itis when it comes to watching the Vikings defense. That you're watching the Vikings for 3 hours and like snippets of other games and teams throughout, and that's how like almost everyone watches football. You watch your team, and all of us on the show are like glued to that game, and then Ventline everything. And you think what you're watching is way out of line with where the defense should be and where it is relative to the rest of the league, right? And I agree. Like the run defense has been leakier than it should be, and there are conversations to be had. Yep. But the Vikings run defense is it's 19th in the NFL in terms of like yards per attempt allowed. So it's a below average run defense. But when you take the whole defense all together, the Vikings, you wake up this morning on this Monday and just pure yards per play allowed, they are 7th in the NFL defensively. And I'm not saying they've been great or like the best defense we've seen. Like I think last year's defense was better. But the moral of the story here is relative to the other 31 teams they're competing with, the Vikings have one of the 7 best yardage defenses in the league. A lot of defenses are leaky. And even though they were kind of leaky yesterday, they only allowed 17 points, which you're going to win most games when you allow 17 points. Yep. But they're in line. They're 7th in yardage defense, and they're 7th in scoring defense this morning. So their yardage and their scoring defense are perfectly aligned exactly where they should be. It's just that there's a lot of leaky defenses in the NFL in 2025.
There are, except this goes back to your statement. I think it was a hot take about a month and a half ago, which I agreed with at the time, which is the Vikings defense is going to be the reason why they win like a Super Bowl. They're not there. Like this is not what
it's the main reason why they're 3-2 probably, because like the defense has been better than the offense, even though it's been sort of leaky, but it's not a Super Bowl carrying defense yet.
Correct.
I agree with that.
And that's my question is I expected much more. And my other question is this. Is this a case of shaky ground that's going to stabilize, or does the bottom fall out and eventually some of the problems that they do have with some of the guys who are out start to lead to points against? I will continue to say this. I have major concerns, and I have no basis. This is reckless speculation, but I have major concerns that Andrew Van Ginkel is not back anytime soon. Blake Cashman's hurt a lot. And it's a hammy, and those things can be very, like, there are very significant different grades. So my problem too is if we think the Calvary's going to come back and save the day, is that the case? But yeah, if they were just an average, if I just liked them defensively, I'd probably say that this isn't fine, but it's okay. Yeah. But they are such an important part of what this team does. And at least against the run, they have been so far from being what I expected.
It's the run. And even like the Browns are starting a first time ever 3rd round pick rookie at quarterback yesterday. And so even any of the passing success that they had was really creative, tricked up scheming. It was play action. It was motions. It wasn't just Dylan Gabriel dropping back, 30 times. But I think so. Van Ginkel is a huge loss, and it does change your defense. I think Cashman has proven to be, for whatever reason, just maybe it's his versatility, the most important cog when it comes to winning and losing over the last couple years. Mm-hmm. So I think the answer to your question of does the bottom drop out of this defense at some point, I need to know, is Blake Cashman coming back first? Right. Van Ginkel also a big missing piece, but the Vikings, again, you wake up this morning on Monday, and the Vikings defense, despite a couple huge injuries, I've heard Harrison Smith that this was all kind of part of the plan. It was Just keep his snap count manageable, part-time player, and then maybe as you get out of the bye week, you start to see a lot more Harrison Smith, which will help him being on the field. But the Vikings are third in pressure rate this morning. It's the Broncos, the Steelers, and the Vikings are the three best pressure defenses in the league. The Vikings are just ahead of the Packers, who had to trade 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark for Micah Parsons. And guess who's been pressuring the quarterback more than them? The Vikings. So I agree, the defense isn't as good as I thought it would be yet. It's not as good as last year's defense. But it is far from this sieve that a lot of people think it is when you zoom out and look at the other 31 teams and the Vikings.
It's just not good enough to get you to where you need them to be to go. Not right now, it's not.
Not with the uncertain offense situation. Yeah,
no, right.
We can dive way deeper on this tomorrow.
And McCarthy's coming back too, and like we cannot say that that's a slam dunk. Like, oh, he's going to come back and it's fine. We still don't know on that one.
We don't know. We actually don't know. The Eagles game is so up in the air. Okay, my hottest Vikings take. I'll back clean up and then we'll get to Chef Dex. Kevin O'Connell is one of the most wildly underrated head coaches in modern NFL history. I'm going to pause for the groaning from the anti-KOC portion of the Vikings fan base and the YouTube comment section. And then I will point to those people who are groaning as I say that and say, he is still wildly underrated by large portions of this fan base. I think the amount of winning Kevin O'Connell does without certainty at quarterback or without an elite level quarterback is astonishing. And I think that's a great measurement of how good an NFL head coach is. Do you win? Can you keep a team afloat with uncertainty at quarterback or non-elite quarterback play? And if you look at Kevin, I'm going to give you a couple nuggets here. So I went last night, much like Declan. I'm just perusing the internet. I'm just digging for Vikings takes. And in addition to having the 5th best winning percentage of all current active NFL head coaches, which is like right there alone is an incredible accomplishment. 5th best winning percentage regular season. You got to win some playoff games at some point. So I agree there. But he has used 7 different starting quarterbacks in 3.5 years with the Vikings. Those 7 quarterbacks average 7.5 wins per 17 games without O'Connell in their careers. Now, McCarthy and Jaron Hall have never played with another NFL head coach, so like you can kind of throw them aside. But so those quarterbacks, 7.5 wins per 17 games without Kevin O'Connell. With Kevin O'Connell, it jumps to 11 wins per 17 games. So he's taking kind of a hodgepodge group of 7 quarterbacks with like Darnold and Kirk Cousins being the best of them. And he's elevating them from 500 or below level quarterbacks everywhere else in their career with every other head coach to winning an average of 11 games per 17 in the last 3.5 years. So then I went and I wonder, man, like if you looked at the most winning active head coaches in the NFL, I wonder if there's any other guys that are just like winning with randos at the level that he is. So here are the 10 active NFL head coaches in order. Winning percentage, regular season winning percentage. Number 1 is Nick Sirianni. And I would not necessarily put his quarterback on the level of some of the other coaches. But what he does have is, unless you guys want to fight this, inarguably the best front office and personnel acquiring department in the league. The Eagles nail every draft pick. They've nailed trades, free agency. So Nick Sirianni, he's done a good job. They won a Super Bowl, obviously, but that front office unquestionably is the best at just bringing in crazy talent. So he's number 1. Number 2, Jim Harbaugh, who literally wins everywhere college NFL period, also has not necessarily had, until maybe now with Justin Herbert, top level quarterback play. Matt LaFleur, 3rd, multiple 13-win seasons to start his career with still prime Aaron Rodgers. Nice little head start for him. Sean McDermott, 7 years of Josh Allen. Then there's Kevin O'Connell, with 7 sort of random dudes. He's had to save a couple careers in there, including Sam Darnold. Andy Reid has had Patrick Mahomes for, 8 years? Mike Tomlin, 15 years of Ben Roethlisberger. John Harbaugh has had 7 years of Lamar Jackson. Sean Payton had over a decade of Drew Brees. And Sean McVay, you might say, well, what about Sean McVay? Well, he's had 2 number 1 overall picks as his quarterbacks in Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. So here's Kevin O'Connell sitting on this list of the top 10 active head coach winning percentages. He doesn't get Mahomes, Ben Roethlisberger, who's a Hall of Famer, Lamar Jackson, Drew Brees, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers still in his prime. He gets save Sam Darnold's career. He gets Kirk Cousins, who's been like the absolute barometer for a 500 quarterback everywhere he's been for 15 years. So, not to mention, by the way, the 2 quarterbacks who enrolled in his quarterback rehab school last year, Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, are 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league now in 2025. So he is such a great coach with random quarterbacks that he had people debating whether last year was a failure because they lost a playoff game with Sam Darnold, which is a debate that he created by reviving the career of Sam Darnold. So I just think he remains, he's got to win playoff games. I'll give you that, 100%. Got to win playoff games. But he remains wildly underrated across the league and even among huge portions of the Vikings fan base.
I think you're falling into seeing game day reactions. I feel like he's appreciated. And I would say this. I think he is more appreciated across the league than here. He won the coach of the year, which is, by the way, very hard to do because he did such a good job. I don't think he is, and I get it. On game day, we get pissed off about things, but I mean, you could bring in Vince Lombardi back from the dead and coach a game, and fans would be like, yeah, what the hell is he doing? So
he runs the ball too much.
Yeah, I actually think overall by the fan base and more so nationally, I think he is very appreciated. And look, I mean, he's put in that small group of people, and this is a huge compliment. He's put in a very small group of coaches who are quarterback whisperers because he's done a really good job there. So I get it. On game day, there's things, but we get pissed off. I mean, I go back to 78. There's not been a Vikings game where you have not heard fans bitching and moaning about what happened in a game, about a decision to do something. I think he's appreciated a lot. And yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when he walks out the door, it's going to be, did you win a Super Bowl? Did you win playoff games? And that's going to be a completely fair thing. But I mean, I think overall there is a massive appreciation because we've seen a lot of coaches here, some good, some bad. And if nothing else, and like this, just to go back to, this is where the Addison discussion gets to be so interesting. And KO brought this up yesterday, is part of it is he has set a culture. He has set an expectation. Yep. And so at some point in time, it becomes, because I see the comments about, I don't care what Jordan does as long as he plays here. It's like, that's not how you run a program. But I think that Kevin has done about as good a job of running a program as you could possibly do. And that starts long before you're scripting the first 15.
Yeah. And another, so maybe it's an algorithm-driven hot take by me. Just what I'm seeing from some Vikings fans could be entirely true, which makes it kind of a straw man. But my question off of all this is, okay, what if you take again the 10 active head coach winning percentage leaders and all those quarterbacks that are, and credit to some of those coaches for maximizing the talent of those quarterbacks. I don't want to make it sound like Mahomes is carrying Reed. It's a partnership. But you get that talent, Reed knows how to unlock it, boom, blast off, right? But when you get a talent like that, it's rare. What if you gave Kevin that level talent? And maybe J.J. McCarthy, who's still in the garage a year and a half later,
that's what becomes they're trying to find.
I think after watching last night, I can confirm Drake May would have been that nice talent to put next to Kevin O'Connell.
Dude.
But what happens when you give a number 1 overall pick talent to Sean McVay? He goes to the Super Bowl with him in like year 2. Yep. And then decides, you know what, actually I'm kind of out on this guy. I'm going to trade him for another former number 1 overall pick and then win the Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. What would KOC look like if he had that type of talent at quarterback consistently, week in and week out, not nursing a knee or an ankle or, you know, having to save Sam Darnold's career and then move on from him, et cetera? Like, give him a guy for 8 years and see what happens. I would be really curious. Let's make it happen, please, Vikings.
The dirty little secret about Reed especially, though, is this, and this is how tough this job is. He put all his eggs in for years in Philadelphia, the McNabb basket, right? And McNabb could get you to championship games. Like, he was good enough to get you there. But the poster child moment of McNabb's career is puking literally in the huddle at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So like it took Andy years, and he finally gets fired there, goes to Kansas City, and he hits on his next guy, and it works perfectly. But like, think about the very fine line that you are walking, because McNabb was really good at one time. He was a really good, but he wasn't good enough to be that guy.
No.
Mahomes was. And that's my question. Can KO find that guy? In McVay's case, he just sort of aborted the mission and said, screw it, I'll go get a guy that I think and I know can do it, because I've seen enough, despite the fact the poor guy was stuck in Detroit forever.
And the narrative too, and again, I am totally guilty of this. I've tried to be a lot better of it, but the Browns are bad. They should be blowing out the Browns. Do you know, going into that Bills and Patriots game, which was a great game, coming out party for Drake May, awesome revenge game for Stephon Diggs, the Bills at home were 7.5-point favorites against that Patriots team. So they were a touchdown favorite at home, expected to beat that team by 7.5 points. What happened? The Patriots responded with an amazing game plan. Drake May looked awesome. This league is built up to have games mostly set up to be very, very close. So, like, this idea of you need to be blowing out teams and doubling up and covering that spread every time is very difficult to do in the NFL. It's probably like one of the bigger differences to me sometimes why I don't maybe like get super into college football, because you see Ohio State play Minnesota, and yeah, they're going to cover that 21.5-point spread, no problem. So this league is just set up to be a lot closer. It's hard to blow out even the bad teams or teams you're expected to do so.
Yeah, dude, like the Browns, they have like 7 players from Ohio State.
And yeah,
they've got 3
defense.
players from LSU and Alabama and Miami and Michigan, and they draft in the top 5 every year. They're super talented. They also have a 2-time NFL head coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski.
They're poorly run from the top.
Operationally, ownership,
operationally,
embarrassment,
they're bad. But like the Jets are one of the few just overall incompetent up and down teams. But yeah, the Browns are. I mean, Stefanski. We can bag on Kevin all we want, but take him away and put in just an average coach, and the Browns are probably terrible. But they are a well-coached team, and that, you know what? Jim Schwartz is arguably one of the better DCs in the entire league.
Yeah. By the way, I'm the man. Every team has players from good schools, Mackie. LOL. That's the point. That's why it's a 3.5-point spread when the Vikings play the Browns and not a 21-point spread.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's this gap between expectations and reality that you should just beat the brakes off a team like the Browns.
Yeah.
When Vegas is telling you, no, it's actually these are like 1-score games, even when you think that.
Can I go? Am I safe now? Can I go full man crush on Drake May?
Let's do that in a second here. That deserves a side street.
Yeah. It's man crush time. That's all I'm saying.
Let's do that and the pie chart here. As we cruise along live on the Purple Daily YouTube channel, got a couple thousand people ducking out of their work obligations here, live with us. Click that subscribe button and the like button. Let me pull up real quick. The Prize Picks app, you got that Monday night game tonight. It's a good one. You got KC and Jacksonville tonight. And if you open this up, there's a couple. So right now they're giving you Patrick Mahomes 1.5 passing touchdowns is an option for you. So you could click more on that. We'll see. Maybe the Jaguars defense winds up actually being pretty stout against the resurgent Chiefs offense. But Prize Picks is the easy way to play daily fantasy. It's a great place to win real money this football season. Select between 2 and 6 players. You pick more or less on their projected stats. Boom, boom. You can see it right here on my app. And you place your entry. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code PURPLEDAILY and get $50 in lineups when you play $5. That's code PURPLEDAILY on the Prize Picks app, and you get $50 in lineups when you play just $5. Prize Picks, run your game. 2 men in a truck, Dex. If the Vikings are bringing in more random offensive linemen and they need to move their stuff, we know who to call.
Exactly. That's the experts. That's the professionals at 2 men in a truck. You don't have to worry about trying to figure out, God, who can I help me move? Does my uncle still have that truck? Is that thing even sagging on the grid? Is there going to be able to hold my big couch? 2 men in a truck have all sorts of different types and sizes of trucks. and crews to help you make that move so much easier. It's one of the most stressful things you can do. So let the experts handle it for you. I've used them. Phil has used them. Go to 2menandatruck.com. No hidden fees, no service charges. What they quote is what you pay. Make your next move happen with 2 Men and a Truck.
Also, we are pumped this season, Purple Daily and O-Line Committee, to team up with FVP Auto Parts and Menards. Menards is your one-stop shop for FVP Auto Parts, including -50 RV and marine antifreeze. So fall weather this week, which means eventually winter is coming. And if you've got summer toys that need to be winterized, FVP RV and marine antifreeze is good up to -50 degrees for boats, RVs, cabins, swimming pools. So head to Menards, either in the Twin Cities, Greater Minnesota, or any number of 15 different states in the upper Midwest area, and stock up on FVP antifreeze, because performance matters on the road and beyond. Let's actually save the Drake May thing for the nitpick section, because I think I'd love to have a little side street with you two on that. So, but the Chef Dex, he's been up all night. He's got a 3-week-old son, Sonny. He's spinning plates. He's baking pie charts of praise. How many slices?
7.
Oh,
7 slices of pie.
Yeah.
7 slices of pie.
Let's party.
I got it done around 9 o'clock, but then, as I'm staying up, watching the rise and fall of old video game systems on YouTube. That was my binge last night after Sunday Night Football, just watching random things on YouTube. I went and fed Sonny at like 1 a.m., just houses a 3-ounce bottle in like 10 minutes. Just getting after it. And I'm like reading over the pie chart one more time with, 1.5 eyes open, sleep deprived, making sure that this pie chart's appropriate and ready to go. As always, we'll start from the bottom and work our way up on the 7-slice pie. Starting with 5%. I know he was suspended for the first quarter, and he's gotten some trouble, but I'm going to give a 5% slice to Jordan Addison. I'm still going to give him some praise here. I know it might be a little awkward. The character issues are still at play. Catches the game-winning touchdown. He definitely still deserves some credit for that. So he gets a little slice of pie here. It's 5%. Still ends up having a pretty solid game, too. So Jordan Addison does make it on the pie chart with a 5% little sliver.
Why do you think they didn't show, for one of the first times in KOC history, the game ball portion of the postgame? Is it because of the awkwardness with Addison?
No, I think he addressed it again. I think he probably said, this guy has made some mistakes. We all do, but he has made some bigger ones. And the fact is that he couldn't play for a quarter, and that could have cost us bad. I hope his mistakes stop soon. But in lieu of the fact he caught that touchdown, here's a game ball. And then there was an uncomfortable hug. George, did you see the picture capture of KO addressing the team, and Jordan's like in the background a little bit, and he looks like, pardon me, someone shot his dog. Like,
just kind of zoned out. He always looks kind of zoned out.
I know,
doesn't he?
I know, but it was just sort of like it was a very good example, I think, of how the day went for Jordan Addison.
Yeah, it's like, and I don't know. Do you think? I'm just speculating here, but he probably hates his coach a little bit when he has to be punished, but it's his fault, like all these things.
Well, and I guess my question is this. Okay, he got benched for a quarter. It could have been more. Like, because the post-game quote was, were you afraid that you were going to be held out the entire game? And he said, hell yeah. So here's my question. What was the fine?
The internal fine? What are you allowed internally?
I would have to look it up, but I'm willing to bet
10 or 15K or something.
They might have reached the cap, is my guess.
Yeah.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
Second slice of pie, it's another 5%er. Give me 5% to Cam Akers. Cam Akers making the little touchdown pass happen. I mean, that was an awesome trick play. Yes, KOC gets a slice of pie here. I'll get to that later on for drawing up the play call. Great little pass there from Cam Akers. He deserves credit. Always love a trick play. Gets me out of my seat every time I watch it. Cam Akers deserves a little slice of pie, a perfect passer rating. How can you not have him in the pie chart of praise? So a 5% slice to Cam Akers.
One offensive snap, and that was it.
That was it.
One offensive snap, and he throws a touchdown.
But you know what you can do? So they have, maybe I should use this as a write that down prediction. That play worked brilliantly, but they also laid the groundwork to run it again differently. So if you look, someone posted the all 22 of that play, and Carson Wentz is lined up to the left outside as like a receiver. and the ball is snapped, Wildcat, Cam Akers, and Carson Wentz breaks backwards off the line of scrimmage 5 yards to potentially take a throw, which you could do that on the backside next time, right? The last time they did this with Cam Akers, he threw a touchdown pass to the right to a tight end leaking out.
Oh,
but the next time you could fake that pass, or you could throw it backwards to Carson Wentz, who could hit. Maybe there's a tight end. Maybe what happens is Hockenson leaks out, or who was it? It was Josh Oliver. Josh Oliver leaks out to the right and then cuts across the field, and he waits for the Carson Wentz portion of the play.
So you're saying
you've laid the groundwork for another trick play that you're going to despise, but it's
no,
set up
I don't
work.
despise.
I don't goes down the field.
Goes exactly. Thank you, Declan. Goes down the field.
Sometimes you have to go across
the
to go over. That's the thing. If they have to go across to Wentz,
takes too long.
Then go down the field.
Well, the problem though is the laterals, the cross field laterals that set up down the field shots take too long to develop.
Tell that to the Tennessee Titans in 1999.
They take too long to
tell that to.
Oh, well, the Titans play was like 87 different things. I'm just saying.
No, it wasn't.
Quick developing.
I feel like it was one
it was one very well-placed pass across the field.
On the kickoff. Oh, on the kickoff. This is not a kickoff. That's fine. Do it on a kickoff. This is an offensive play. Get it down the field. Declan said it.
I am actually going to put a pin in Judd saying do it on a kickoff, because if they do it on a kickoff, we now have your stamp of approval.
No. Sorry, I'm saying the Titans could do that on a kickoff. No.
Knows how you feel about pie.
Next slice of pie. We'll go up in proportion here. 10%. You could maybe argue this should be higher, but 10% to the offensive line. I think all things considered, they did a pretty dang good job with the personnel that was in there and the opposition that they were going against. I saw this from Next Gen Stats. The Vikings limited Myles Garrett, who's obviously one of the best defenders in the NFL, to 2 pressures on 35 pass rushes. That 5.7% was his second lowest pressure rate in a game since 2021. And they did this by chipping Garrett on 42.9% of his rushes. The third highest chip rate Garrett has faced since he came into the league in 2018. And Justin School, who, oh my gosh, it's been, a revolving door basically letting guys in. He had entered the game allowing a 14.3 pressure rate, and he held Myles Garrett, arguably the best and biggest beast in the NFL on getting after the quarterback, without a pressure on 14 pass rush matchups. So all things considered, that offensive line held up to a degree. They deserve a slice of pie, and it's 10%.
Yeah. Also, I thought they did a good job in the run game too. It wasn't like a gaudy performance on the ground, but it was, 25, 27 carries or something for like 100. It was just a workmanlike, when they needed some chunks of yards, that another short range rushing touchdown in that game appeared to go right through the A gap. Jordan Mason, love it.
Loved it. So and as far as the Garrett thing goes, because it was the Myles Garrett game plan was fantastic. And again, I don't think O'Connell liked it, but he should have. So one of the few, there were like 3 nuggets that Jonathan Vilma, who I think is terrible, dropped. And it was clear that O'Connell had told him at the production meeting the night before that one of the things was that they were going to keep a tight end on Myles Garrett's side all the time to help chip and block. And they did. And I think what O'Connell finds to be gross to him is that means that the tight end does not become as much of an option or one at all in the passing game, right?
Yeah.
But like Justin School did not find God. They basically said, we're going to get you help all the time. And no matter how O'Connell feels about that personally, it was 100% the right thing. Without the game plan that the Vikings employed, they lose that game.
And the sack that he had was on Carson Wentz. The Vikings, so Myles Garrett starts off over the left tackle, and they had chip help over there. And so I think it was Darisaw in the game at that time. And Darisaw and the tight end went to war with him for like 3 seconds, pushed him out. And then Carson Wentz doesn't see anything, so he steps up to the right. And now it's like, now you're on your own. You've left the pocket, and you're well beyond the 2.5 seconds of allotted time that we are obligated to block Myles Garrett. And credit to Garrett, his motor never stops, and he came across and got the sack. But like, even the sack wasn't the offensive line's fault for Myles Garrett yesterday. Okay.
All right, next slice of pie. Continue to go up a little bit. 15% to the fourth quarter defense by the Vikings. So I don't love that they come out the half, the Vikings defense that is, and they allow a 13-play, 74-yard touchdown drive, chews up 8-minute clock, and you're like, God, guys, it's Dylan Gabriel, who I think all things considered probably played maybe even better than expectation. But in the fourth quarter, the Vikings defense finally locked it in. Here were the possession results for the Browns in that fourth quarter. Punt, 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 end of game. And in that fourth quarter alone, so the Browns gained 74 yards of offense. 44 of it came on like a garbage time last second play when the Vikings were basically about to win the game. So you take that play out, they averaged 2 yards a play. They shut things down. They deserved a big chunk of pie here. So I'm going to give them 15% for it took a little longer than I think we wanted it to, but they locked down the Browns and finally were able to give the Vikings a win. So 15% to the defense.
Yeah. And that's, sometimes you're going to have these games where there's a couple short fields early too. We didn't really talk about this. The start of the game and Big Leg Bill comes up short of the landing zone. So now you're giving this rookie quarterback a short field from the 40 and the Vikings defense held. And then there was a fumble by Jordan Mason early in the game that gave them another short field. So they were the offense wasn't helping early on, or the special teams. So, all right.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
All right, moving along here. Another 15% chunk of pie coming to my guy, Carson Wentz. 15% for Carson Wentz in this fourth quarter. Also we saw in the game-winning drive, surgical 9 of 9, 71 yards, the game-winning touchdown. He deserves credit for not completely shipwrecking this game. So I will give credit where credit is due to Carson Wentz, who I've been very critical of, and he deserves it. The last drive, I was already kind of just assuming, all right, they're going to really lose the bleeping Cleveland Browns. This is going to happen. We're going to see a back-breaking interception. Nope, Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Applause. All right, this is coming from a guy who has said nothing but great things about you all season and all your career. Yeah. You get a 15% slice of pie for the game-winning drive.
Yeah. Is it hyperbole to suggest that Carson Wentz going 9 for 9 and moving the ball down the field, throwing the game-winning touchdown, saved the Viking season yesterday?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. We talked about this on the Friday show. I think this was a must-win game. I think if you come back, 2-3, and the schedule after the bye week, and JJ might start, like that's if everything was going according to plan, we would be having great discussions about McCarthy, right? Mm-hmm. And can he do this? And can like that's a struggle, or that's a challenge by itself. But because things have gone so poorly with injuries and stuff, it's almost an afterthought. But yeah, if you gave a team back to JJ McCarthy at 2-3 against the Eagles, I would say this is going to be extremely difficult to make the playoffs. So I think painting that as a must-win game is fair.
It still is going to be really tough to make the playoffs 100%. With the schedule and injuries and everything. But they were like 20% chance going into that game. And we'll see after the weekend. It's not going to go up to 50. I think, the football power index on ESPN right now has them at 23%. So all they basically did was, because if they lose, it's probably down to 10%, 9%. Right. It goes way down. So they keep moving it forward here to keep their season in the right direction.
This feels like a year, though, where you just have to stick with it, too. I mean, that's what I kept saying. The Falcons game was terrible, but the Pittsburgh game, right? Like, I know that it felt crappy, but that game was winnable for a long time. And I kept saying yesterday, just keep it close. Keep it close. Yeah. It's ugly as hell, but keep it close. And what's funny, though, is because of how this league works, and Dex alluded to this, when they get back from the bye, that gauntlet looks different than it did previously. I mean, Baltimore's a mess. You're going to be favored there, and you might be, with the way the Ravens defense is playing, you might be favored by a bleeping touchdown there. Philadelphia has its problems right now. Like, they're turning, the offense is a mess. The OC is taking a ton of heat, rightfully so. So, yes, it's going to be difficult to make the playoffs at 3-2, but it feels doable. At 2-3, I don't know it feels doable.
Mm-hmm.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
2 more slices of pie, 20% to the head coach, Kevin O'Connell. This is funny because as we talked about at the top of the show, like I think he was maybe disgusted with how he had to call things, but I just don't know, and sometimes it's more guilty. Maybe Judd's right of falling victim to seeing the hatred or the disgust of KOC in game instead of looking at the bigger picture of KOC. But I just don't know how you look at this team, look at the injuries that have taken place, how we've had to adjust, and you're not still like pretty impressed with what he has been able to do, man. So he deserves a large chunk of pie. They've also, I mean, they were international these last 2 weeks. That's also a big change. You had to basically suspend your second wide receiver for the first quarter for another disciplinary thing. You're still able to come out on top of it. Kevin O'Connell deserves a big slice of pie here for the win. I give him 20% in this pie chart of praise.
Yeah, navigating all the injuries and still finding a way to. It was one of those vintage Nick Mullins is your quarterback, and you still find a way to throw for almost 400 yards type of things from a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Carson Wentz is probably more of a rich man's Nick Mullins, but they have some of the same YOLO tendencies.
Yes, they do.
But they made it work.
All right, last chunk of pie here. 30%, the top and the biggest slice of pie. I'm giving it to Justin Jefferson. I almost had the hottest take of the Vikings do not even come close to winning this game without JJ. I thought Jefferson's performance yesterday was incredible. He was there when they needed him. They targeted him. He pulled in a bunch of big catches. He had the insane grab over Ward that kind of helped basically lead them to that game-winning drive. I just, even when you look at some of the big catches he made of chunk plays down the field and getting first downs and Wentz finding him, targeting him, feed your beast, right? Feed the number one wide receiver in the NFL. Justin Jefferson's performance yesterday really stood out to me. Obviously, the stats back it up, but even eye test-wise, they went to him, and when they needed him, he was able to deliver. I just don't see how they win that game without JJ. So he gets the biggest chunk of pie for me in this game. There's a lot of good things that happen. Wentz's final drive, the fourth quarter defense, some fun things, some Cam Akers, but Jefferson deserves the biggest slice of pie. So on this 7-piece pie chart of praise, 30% to Justin Jefferson, 20% to Kevin O'Connell, 15% to Carson Wentz, 15% to the fourth quarter defense, 10% to the offensive line, 5% Cam Akers, 5% Jordan Addison. That is your pie chart of praise.
And the math plane landed
Bang.
to perfection.
Nicely done, 100%. Declan. Nicely done.
Checked 15 times, yes.
If you had used that as your hottest take off the game about JJ, I would have said, I don't think that's a hot take.
Yeah.
I think there's no question you're right.
Wrapped it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just no question. And here's so here, if you take into this as a 3-pronged thing, okay? O'Connell, Wentz, and Jefferson. Think about this. O'Connell's calling plays for a YOLO QB, a guy who's desperate to make plays that are going to kill you, right? And he has to throw the ball, or he throws it to Jefferson in really tight coverage spaces. And Jefferson is always like, I'll catch it. But you're like, really? With Carson Wentz? And they did it anyway. Like, that's impressive. Because Carson Wentz, we're not talking about a dynamic, I know he can fit that ball in. And Jefferson's covered by Ward part of the time, who's a really, really good defensive back. So a lot of things, there had to be a lot of trust where I don't know that I would have trusted guys, but you absolutely had to. And Jefferson's ability to deliver catches that he shouldn't make, going back to like that Buffalo catch, which is still stupid, is one of the most impressive things I think I've seen.
Yeah, amen.
Knows how you feel about
we'll do a round of nitpicks. When they win, we give you nitpicks. When they lose, we give you silver linings. Keep things balanced here on Purple Daily. But what's going on Underdog here heading into the week, Dex?
Yeah, so there's some gimme picks that are popping in here every once in a while. Make sure if you don't have the notifications turned on so you can find these, especially on the primetime games. A big one here on Monday Night Football. You can ride higher or lower on receiving yards, touchdowns. I always like longest reception. Speaking of Justin Jefferson, he hauled in a big one yesterday. So go to the Underdog app on the App Store or Google Play Store. Sign up with promo code SCORE, SKOR. And when you play $5, you'll get $100 in bonus funds to also get in on the action, on the pick'em, on the fantasy drafts, whatever you want it to be. And send me those winning pick'ems too. Go to Underdog and sign up with promo code SCORE.
Hey, Pepsi is the official beverage of the Minnesota Vikings, and you can win Victor's Ride. The Win Victor's Ride contest from Pepsi is back for the 2025 season. So these glorious Justin Jefferson, look at that guy. That's the face of a man who carried a team on his back. 10 catches, third in the NFL in receiving yards, despite the offensive tumultuousness, if that's a word. But you could win Victor's Ride by scanning the QR code on these Justin Jefferson souvenir cups, a Polaris 1000 ATV. And it's easy to get these cups either inside US Bank Stadium or at a Hy-Vee Fast and Fresh location, or as of last week, inside Buffalo Wild Wings locations around the Twin Cities. So stop into your local Buffalo Wild Wings, get one of these Justin Jefferson Pepsi cups, scan that QR code, and enter to win Victor's Ride. Pepsi, the official beverage of the Minnesota Vikings. Also, a shout out to the Canopy Group for powering these hottest takes on this Monday, Judd.
Absolutely. And they are an in-state based independent insurance company that has your best interest in mind. What does that mean? Much like a GM in sports, they're constantly on the lookout for the best talent available. The Canopy Group does the same for you when it comes to getting the best insurance coverage at the best price. What they do is they work with 16 groups of top-tier companies to make sure that you have the best insurance roster available for auto, home, health, and business. And when it's time to re-up, you're going to hear from them because you deserve better than the status quo. Give them a call, 1-800-967-3389, or check out their website. That's thecanopygroup.com, thecanopygroup.com, looking out for you.
All right, nitpicks. Let's do the Drake May thing. Watching him absolutely break out last night against the Bills on the road felt like kind of an organizational shaping win for the Patriots last night. I don't know, for Vikings fans lamenting, I don't know that there was a path to Drake May, because it sounds like those conversations took place behind the scenes and the price was multiple first-round picks. And it sounds like the Patriots said, nah, he's our franchise quarterback going forward. So is there anything to lament other than like, oh, he's just like a really good quarterback on a different team that the Vikings never had access to?
If you believe the stories that have circulated, it sounds like the Patriots said, go away. Like, I don't even know if the Vikings had said, we will give you 3 first-round draft picks, please, please, please. It sounded like the Pats were, and you know what? In watching that game last night in Buffalo, that kid play like that, holy cow. So, no, I think there's nothing to lament other than the fact of watching him play. And then what really got me, Phil, was the joint practices against the Patriots that the Vikings had that we both attended. And like you saw him in person with the size, the arm, the savvy, the demeanor. It's like, okay, this guy is a quarterback. Like he was built to be one. So it's a nitpick in that the gods did not shine on the Vikings enough to give him a top 3 pick. That's that year, which was obviously not going to happen.
Yeah, I think there wound up being just 3 quarterbacks that they did not have access to, just according to the reports of like what they were maybe offering. The other ones being Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. Yep. And also just like we were talking about this last week, the fact that here's Drake May on Sunday Night Football on the road after starting half the season last year, and now so he's made like whatever it is, I don't know, 17 or 19 starts or whatever it is. Yeah. And you know, he's stacking the experience, got the right coach in there, and Mike Vrabel, who builds cultures, and you're watching his progression, his journey, if you will, play out on national TV last night. And we're still waiting for J.J. McCarthy's journey to leave the driveway.
Yeah. That's where, too, like, totally different teams. But, like, Drake May started, 10 games, handful of games last year with the Patriots. That Patriots team wasn't expected to be anything. And, like, they didn't show great flashes of being, like, this dangerous team. But he got the reps, right? They went through some struggles. They bring in Stephon Diggs, who had an awesome game for them last night. And now, all of a sudden, they have this great win against the Bills. And here come the Patriots. So why also, in the same vein, like if J.J. McCarthy does come back after the bye week or whatever date it is at some point in 2025, and maybe the Vikings don't become a playoff team, but he gets the reps and things look good, right? Like it's not completely out of the question to say if McCarthy gets in here and gets the reps needed, that in 2026, this can still be a very dangerous team with McCarthy finally healthy and active and getting the reps he needs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One more nitpick for the road here. And again, we can talk more about this, but I guess it's a nitpick, but it's also a good thing. the backup or second unit defensive line just looks a lot more impactful than the expensive veteran starters, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, that they signed.
Yeah.
Now, Hargrave had like 7 pressures in the first game, so there was still some juice there. But you saw Levi Drake Rodriguez flash for a tackle for a loss in the second quarter. Jalen Redmond every game is doing something, a sack, 2 sacks, a batted pass early in that game. And then Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, the 5th-round pick, he tallied his first career sack yesterday. So all three, it's a great sign that you now have, you're spoiled by how many great players you apparently have in the trenches on defense, or guys that are going to even get better going forward, like probably all 3 of them. But you paid for Hargrave and Allen, I think, to be more impactful than they've been to this point in the season.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe some film junkies would push back at that, but kind of feels like the second team defensive line has been shining.
Yeah, which is great. I just wish that the investment in the vets was paying off more. I got a quick one though. Okay, I'm good on Europe. I'm good on Europe. I'm good on Croke Park, where they inform the coaches, and this goes both ways too. There's not just a Vikings complaint, but where they inform the coaches shortly before a game that you're about to play in $1 billion league, the most popular league I think we could say in the world.
$1 billion league.
Billions and billions. But the point is
$25 billion league.
Okay, billions and billions. But my point is, you're about to play a game in this league, and they come around and say, "Oh, sorry, the clocks don't work. We're going to shut them off." Yesterday, you've got, and I did see that. I think in the Jets game, there also was a pass hit a wire. So, but you have a field goal, which I don't think I've ever heard of. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I've ever heard of a field goal attempt hitting a wire above, like, but it's low, like
and then no one catches
it's way
it.
Too low. Well,
no one in the official replay box, no one on the field saw that happened.
But what gets me is, why on earth are we, if you look at that wire, if you had looked up before the game, you would say that wire is really low. What are we doing here? Yeah. Like if you want to be, hey, Europe, Australia, if you want to be part of our league, get your stadiums fixed, get them right. I don't care about it's a soccer pitch. Bleep you. Make it a football stuff. I'm done with Europe. I don't want to go over there and play these games and it's like, let's share our game. Well, let's share our game when you can get your stadiums right.
Yeah, and the slippery turf, the turf monsters. That was the main complaint for a long time.
Croke Park. Yeah. I mean, Dublin. Okay, we've gone to Dublin. It was fun. The Roonies got their win. We don't need to go back there.
And we're going to Madrid. Back. We're going to Berlin. We went to Brazil. We're going all over the place.
Well, but then I want your stadiums up to specs that I deem to be perfect.
I think the camera wire thing is less of a stadium thing and more of because those are aren't those wires kind of go back and forth, right, to different positions? It's like the camera that sits over the top of the field. So I think that was maybe more of an operator issue of, hey, you got to back that thing up. I don't know, man. But yeah, I agree. I'm good too. That's three European games in 12 months.
Yeah, let's stay home. Yeah. Let's stay home. Europe, I love you, but you can't do football. You don't do it right.
Yeah. Be on the lookout, by the way, for much more on the Purple Daily feed today and tomorrow and Wednesday. Jeremiah Searles will join for his monthly O-line committee crossover episode. That'll drop. The Before I Die crew will assemble. We'll have our NFL takes. We're pushing NFL takes back a day or two, but we will have NFL takes at some point this week. And then our State of the Vikings Tuesday episode, deep dive into all things offense and defense. So, all right, for the Sports Dad, for Dex, I'm Phil. These were our hottest Vikings takes, our pie chart. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See ya.